afternoon from the National Weather Service office in Lake Charles. I'm meteorologist Donald Jones with your, what are we going to call it, 2:45 p.m. update on the potential severe weather that's expected across the region this afternoon and this evening. Now, so far, we have not seen any severe weather. That's certainly some good news. We did actually an 18Z or roughly 1 p.m. Upper air weather balloon sounding. And what that indicated was that there is still a layer of stable air kind of in the middle levels of the atmosphere. So that's so far keeping storms from really getting organized and really kind of getting those strong updrafts that are needed for those supercells. Nonetheless, we are still expecting some strong storms to develop later on this afternoon into this evening, and there is still the risk of some severe weather. You can see there actually is a tornado watch in effect now for us. You can see that behind me. We'll talk about that here in just a second, as well as exactly what to expect as far as timing going through the evening and overnight hours. As always, this is a live interactive briefing, so if you have any questions as we go through our briefing, feel free to post them in our comment section, and we'll be happy to answer them just as soon as we wrap up our briefing. I want to start off here, though, by showing the radar so we can take a look at what's going on out there at the moment. So going full screen here, you can see there are a few severe thunderstorms out there, but they are outside of our area. That yellow box there you see is a severe thunderstorm warning that is currently in effect. Is that, I forget, I'm not exactly sure what county that is in Texas, but that's covered by the Weather Service office in Shreveport. That's why I'm not 100% sure exactly which county that is. So there are a few stronger storms out there, and you can see there are some scattered showers and lighter thunderstorms also as well. Let me see if I can put this into motion real quick and give you a general idea of how they're moving. You can see they're moving off to kind of the north-northeast. Those little triangles indicate the possibility of some small hail, although we haven't had any reports of that so far this afternoon. But these storms are gradually beginning to get a little bit stronger. And I think as we go through the rest of the afternoon and into the evening, we're going to continue to see these storms materialize, become more widespread, and also become stronger over the next several hours. Now, unfortunately, this does look like, at least for some of us, that this is going to extend into the overnight hours and into early Sunday morning, especially with regards to the squall line. These storms we're looking at right here are actually ahead of the cold front itself, and the cold front itself is going to be accompanied by a squall line that is going to roll through the area sometime late this evening into early tomorrow morning. So we'll talk about the timing with that as well, but keep in mind that at least for probably about the eastern half of the area, so southwest and south central Louisiana, this may turn into an overnight event that goes through late tonight, if not early Sunday morning. So just kind of bear that in mind. Let me go ahead and see if I can let me pull up my slides here, and we'll talk a little bit about what to expect here. Go back to full screen so you can actually read. Go. Why is this not going? Okay, hang on just a second. It's being difficult. Why is it being difficult? Because it must be difficult. This was put together kind of quickly, so forgive me for the technical difficulties. There we go. Is that better? No. Killing me here. I'm having issues with this program. We're going to get it together. Give me just a moment. All right. There we go. This is live TV, folks. All right. There we go. All right. So as I mentioned, we do have a tornado watch currently in effect across the region. This goes until 9 p.m., but this is not for the entire area. We're looking at southeast Texas counties. So you can see the 6 counties: Tyler, Jasper, Newton, Hardin, Jefferson, and Orange counties. So that's going to go until 9 p.m. And then also Vernon and Beauregard Parish, you can see, is now in effect with this tornado watch until 9 p.m. Now, just because you're not in a tornado watch right now doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be in one at all. It would not surprise me at all to see a tornado watch reissued for parts of the area that are currently not in the watch. So the Lake Charles area, Calcasieu Parish, Lafayette over towards New Iberia, Morgan City, and then up towards Alexandria. You may see a tornado watch later on this evening, but at least as of right this moment, you are not in a tornado watch. Again, the tornado watch that is currently in effect goes until 9 p.m. And besides the tornado threat, of course, we're also looking at the potential for severe weather. Keep in mind that a tornado watch doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be tornadoes and not other forms of severe weather. Those damaging straight line winds and large hail are still going to be possible even within that tornado watch. So kind of keep that in mind. That a tornado watch doesn't just mean tornadoes. It also potentially means all forms of severe weather possible. This is a look at the wind gusts we've seen out there so far through early this afternoon. In fact, this may be a little bit underdone. I think when I walked in the door this afternoon, we were actually gusting close to 50 miles an hour here in the Lake Charles area. These winds are not associated with thunderstorms. These are actually what we call gradient winds. These are winds that have just developed as a result of the differences between high and low pressure across the area. You can see, though, very strong winds, 45 up to 50 miles an hour. Gust this afternoon, and this is not even associated with the thunderstorm winds. Now, as those thunderstorms develop, we are going to be looking at the potential for even stronger winds than what we've seen here. So gusts to 60, 70 miles an hour, not out of the realm of possibility with some of those thunderstorms as they move through. But even so, outside of thunderstorms, these strong winds are going to continue through the afternoon and evening pretty much until that cold front actually moves through. Once that cold front gets through, the winds will calm down as we go into early tomorrow morning and through the day tomorrow. Finally, after about 4 days of pretty nonstop, very strong winds, we'll get a little bit of break from the winds, and they will turn out of the north. They've been very strong out of the south the last few days. These are going to turn out of the north behind that cold front and bring in some much cooler and drier air through much of next week. I didn't put together the 7-day forecast, but we're looking at high temperatures in the 60s and low temperatures in the 40s through much of the upcoming week. So it's going to feel very spring-like out there and much nicer. We do still have a wind advisory in effect until 7 p.m. this evening for most of the area. This does not include Tyler, Jasper, Newton, Vernon, or Rapides, but it's still breezy out there, so don't take that for too much. Wind advisory is issued when we're expecting sustained winds of 20 miles an hour or greater, but even though we're not having those sustained winds, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to get wind gusts of well over 20 miles an hour. Again, we're looking at gusts 45 to 50 miles an hour already. Taking a look at the severe weather threat as we go through the rest of the afternoon and into tonight. The highest overall risk continues to be the potential for damaging straight line winds and large hail. That's not to say that we don't have a tornado threat. We do. In fact, we just had that tornado watch in effect that we just talked about. But I think of the three severe weather parameters, the most widespread, the one we're going to see the most of, is going to be straight line wind damage and hail damage. And you saw when we're looking at the radar at the top of the broadcast here, there's already some indications of possibly some small hail with a few of those cells already. And I think that's going to continue to kind of become more widespread as we go through the day. Looking at the map there, you can see the areas highlighted in orange, which is pretty much everywhere away from the immediate coastline. We're going to be looking at pretty high risk. We've got not a high risk, but an enhanced risk, which is a category 3 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center severe weather scale. Right along the immediate coastline, you can see coastal portions of Jefferson, coastal portions of Cameron, Vermilion, Iberia, St. Mary Parish. You're in a slightly lower risk. You're in a slight risk. That's a category 2 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center severe weather scale. So a little bit lower risk right along the coastline, but the majority of the region is in that enhanced risk, that category 3 risk for severe storms this afternoon. Taking a look at the overall risks for each individual parameter, this is the probability of seeing tornadoes within 25 miles of any given location. And you can see, I've got them written out here. I'll make me a little smaller in the corner there. You can see there's roughly about a 10 to 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of any location across Tyler, Jasper, Newton counties in southeast Texas, as well as Avoyelles, Rapides, Vernon, Allen, Evangeline, Beauregard, and St. Landry in western Louisiana. And you can see those dashed lines there. That's an indication of the possibility of strong tornadoes. That's EF2 or greater tornadoes. That means there's a 10% or greater probability of those. So if we do see a tornado across the region this afternoon into tonight, there is a chance, especially across parts of central Louisiana and interior parts of southeast Texas, that those could be of the strong variety, EF2 or greater. The majority of deaths and the most significant damage occurs with those strong tornadoes. Obviously, that makes sense. But that is going to be a higher overall risk as we go through the evening. Closer to the coast, along the I-10 corridor on south, the area is highlighted in brown. There's a slightly lower overall risk of a tornado. You're looking at about a 5 to 10% chance of seeing a tornado across Hardin, Jefferson, and Orange counties in southeast Texas, as well as Calcasieu, Cameron, Jeff Davis, Acadia, Vermilion, Lafayette, both upper and lower St. Martin, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes. You're in that 5 to 10% chance of seeing a tornado through the rest of the evening and overnight tonight. Taking a look at the overall wind risk, you can see this kind of follows a similar idea to the tornado threat, although the wind risk extends a little bit further to the south across parts of the I-10 corridor. So we're looking at about a 30 to 45% chance of seeing damaging winds, which is 60 mile an hour or greater winds across Tyler, Hardin, Jasper, Newton, and Orange counties in southeast Texas, as well as Calcasieu, Beauregard, Vernon, Vermilion, Acadia, Rapides, Allen, Jeff Davis, Evangeline, Avoyelles, St. Landry, Lafayette, and Iberia parishes in western and south central Louisiana. And then a 15 to 30% chance of seeing 60-mile-an-hour or greater winds across Jefferson, Cameron, Vermilion, both upper and lower St. Martin parishes, as well as Iberia and St. Mary. So again, right along the coastline, the overall risk is a little bit lower, but we're still looking at a pretty significant risk, 30 to 45% chance of seeing those damaging winds in the vicinity of the vast majority of the region across central and southwest Louisiana, as well as interior southeast Texas. Now, again, for an example, if you haven't watched us regularly, what I'm talking about when I say there's a 30 to 45% chance within 25 miles of a location, I'll give you an example. So let's take Alexandria as an example. There is a 30 to 45% chance of seeing 60-mile-an-hour or greater winds within 25 miles of Alexandria. That's basically what that means. So, for example, if it were to be, a little bit further to the west across western Rapides Parish, that's technically within 25 miles. So that would verify that statistic if there were to be damaging wind report or damage that was caused by straight line winds as a result of that. So that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a 45% chance that you're going to see something at your particular house. It means that there will be those strong damaging winds within the vicinity of your house, within 25 miles. Taking a look at the probability of large hail, you can see this is fairly similar. The higher overall risk, though, does extend a little bit further down into southern parts of southeast Texas. And again, those dashed lines there indicate the potential for very large hail or giant hail that's greater or 2 inches in diameter, which is roughly, I think, larger than a golf ball size hail. So that is going to be a possibility. That means there's a greater than 10% chance of that. But generally, we're looking at a 30 to 45% chance of seeing quarter size or larger hail across Tyler, Hardin, Jefferson, Orange, Jasper, and Newton counties. So pretty much all of our counties in southeast Texas, as well as Vernon, Rapides. Jasper and Newton's in there twice for some reason. Vernon, Beauregard, Calcasieu, Jeff Davis, Allen, Rapides, Avoyelles, and Evangeline parishes. And then a little bit lower overall risk, a 15 to 30% chance across parts of south central Louisiana for that severe hail. So Cameron, Vermilion, Acadia, Lafayette, St. Landry, Iberia, both upper and lower St. Martin's and St. Mary Parish are looking at a slightly lower overall risk of hail, a 15 to 30% chance. And again, that's within 25 miles of any location in those areas. We are also looking at a low-end flash flood threat. Now, the bigger risk with the flash flooding, this is going to be more due to the fact that the very heavy rainfall is going to be occurring over a relatively short period of time, more so than we're talking about significant accumulations. We're only looking at between probably maybe a half inch to possibly up to 2 inches of total rainfall with this event. But it's just going to be the fact that it falls over a very short period of time. You may see those 2 inches happen in a 45-minute to an hour period. And when you have rainfall falling that fast, it can't run off the roadways and into the area waterways. So you get street flooding occurring. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the risk of flash flooding with this particular event. But you can see there's roughly a 15 to 40% chance, I should say, of seeing flash flooding pretty much across the entire area. The whole region's outlined in this yellowish color. So that means the probabilities are roughly about the same for the entire area. I'm not going to talk about each individual parish there, but you can see them listed. But we are looking at that overall risk pretty uniform across the entire area for flash flooding. This is a look at our forecast rainfall totals. We're looking at anywhere between about a half inch up to maybe 2 inches on the higher end. There are a possibility a few areas could see a little bit more than that, but generally we're looking at between about a half inch to 2 inches of rainfall, with the higher rainfall totals expected to be across parts of central Louisiana. So Vernon, Rapides parishes. Looks like there is a swath right there that goes through parts of Beauregard Parish. Don't get too bogged down on the specific numbers here, because they're very likely to not be to pan out exactly this way. But this just kind of gives you a general idea as far as the general rainfall totals expected across the area. Those strong gradient winds that we were talking about earlier are still resulting in some minor coastal flooding across coastal portions of the area. So we are looking at generally 1 to 1.5 feet above normal tide periods, which is actually ongoing right now and will continue through about 10 p.m. tonight. I think this is going to be the last day we're going to have this. Again, those winds are going to turn out of the north and decrease as we go through the late overnight into tomorrow morning. So the coastal flooding, whatever's ongoing right now, should come to an end late tonight into early tomorrow morning. Nonetheless, we are still looking at the possibility of some flooding of some roadways right along the immediate coastline, as well as parking lots and or parks that are right along the coast here. That'll continue through 10 p.m. this evening. Let's talk a little bit about the timing of the actual squall line now. As we talked about a little while ago, we already have the storms ongoing across the region. These are these individual cells, but the squall line itself will be developing back to the west, and this is what we're looking at as far as the timing of it actually moving through. So for southeast Texas, generally speaking, you see the dark blue color there. We're looking at between about 5 and 10 p.m. this evening for that squall line to move through. Now, once the squall line moves through, the severe weather threat will come to an end after that. So there won't be any more risk of severe weather once that squall line gets through you. So that's kind of your all clear notification once that gets passed. So between about 5 and 10 p.m. this evening for southeast Texas. For western Louisiana, we're looking at a little bit later, beginning as early as 6 p.m. I think it's probably going to be a little bit later than that, but between 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. for that squall line to move through. I realize that's a fairly large time frame, 6-7 hours. But there's still a little bit of uncertainty with regards to exactly when that line is going to move through. The computer models have actually been slowing it down for the last 12 hours or so. So, that's why we're leaving a fairly large range for that squall line to move through. That doesn't mean you're going to be dealing with a squall line for 6 or 7 hours. That's not going to be the case. The squall line itself will probably only take about an hour or so to move through from the time it gets to you to the time it clears your area. But at some point between 6 p.m. and 1 a.m., you're going to be dealing with that squall line. For a little bit areas south central Louisiana, the Acadiana area, over towards Lafayette, up towards Opelousas, Avoyelles Parish, you're looking at between about 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. for this squall line to move through the area. And then lower Acadiana down towards Iberia, St. Martin, St. Mary parishes between about 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. for the squall line to move through that area. That's what I was talking about earlier when I said this is going to potentially turn into an overnight event, especially for those of you across the Acadiana area, since this is going to be a later in the evening event for that squall line to move through. This is going to potentially be an overnight event. So it's very important that you have a way to have a warning wake you up in the event that you do fall asleep. A lot of phones can alarm you. Of course, weather radios are great for that as well. But have a way to receive a tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, flood warning, as the case may be, to wake you up in case you are asleep during the overnight time frame. This kind of gives you a little bit more idea as far as the actual likelihood of precipitation as we go through the night and early tomorrow morning. We're looking at Louisiana cities first. This is the probability of precipitation for each hour. You can see fairly high rain chances this afternoon, going through very late tonight, and then kind of coming to an end during the early morning hours before sunrise tomorrow morning. So I think the majority of this activity is out of here by sunrise tomorrow morning. The possible exception being down towards, say, St. Mary, Morgan City, that area may still be looking at a few showers through the morning hours Sunday morning. But for most of us, this will be over with by the time you get up tomorrow morning. For Southeast Texas, it's going to be over with a little bit earlier. We're going to be looking at the highest precipitation chances between roughly about now and about midnight tonight, maybe a little bit, maybe we'll say 1 a.m. Then the rain chances really drop off. So this is going to be over with by shortly after midnight tonight for Southeast Texas, and then you'll be done with this, and the drier and cooler air should move in thereafter. So that's what we have here this afternoon from us here at the National Weather Service. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in our comment section. I'll be happy to answer them here over the next little while. Let me go ahead and back up just a bit here. I see somebody's asking me about closed captioning on this. I don't think we have closed captioning on the actual live part, but closed captioning will be available. This whole broadcast will be available as a recording, and the closed captioning will be available on that. The program that does that has to actually go through it and write it out. So let me go ahead and back up here and see if we do have any questions. If you do, feel free to throw it in there now. Monique asks, is it safe to travel today from Dallas to Opelousas? If you haven't left there yet, you're going to probably be driving through that squall line and those individual cells. So kind of keep that in mind. If you do decide to drive, you're going to potentially be driving through some severe weather. So no, I would not say it would be safe to drive. It may be something you want to kind of take the risk and do anyway, but you will be running into some potentially severe thunderstorms. Mario says, is it safe to watch a tornado through the window? That's what that means. It depends how far away from you it is. If it's right outside the window, I'd recommend not being by a window. Windows are not generally safe places to be when you're trying to shelter from a tornado. Now, if it's 10 miles away and you can see it out your window, then you're all right. But if it's coming towards you, no, you don't want to be by a window. Mario says, it's been blowing for days. I'm so tired of this wind. It's killing my little garden, bro. I can relate. I actually planted some baby trees a couple of weeks ago, and they are suffering in this wind as well. So I certainly understand. We've had some reports of some minor structural damage, some minor home damage. In fact, one of our forecasters here at the office had some siding damage just from these gradient winds. Not even a thunderstorm, just those kind of winds. So yeah, it's been a little bit stronger than we're used to around here the last few days. The good news is it's going to come to an end once that cold front comes through. We're going to be done with it by early tomorrow morning. Jamie asked, when is the storm expected to hit Lake Charles? You probably asked that before we went through our timing, but we'll go through it again here. Let me go ahead and jump back to the full screen, and we'll pull the timing graphic back up there. We're going to be looking at some individual storms developing essentially from now through the rest of the evening, but the actual squall line itself will be moving through probably late this evening. So between about 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. Is kind of the time frame we're looking for that squall line right now. Jamie says, what time should the worst hit around Alexandria? Again, we're kind of looking at between 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. for that time frame for the squall line itself, which I think is going to be where the majority of the severe storms is going to be. Suj asks, I really would like to know, have storms gotten stronger since we were kids, or has the frequency of strong storms just increased in our area? I don't recall having this many storms and tornado watches. Not necessarily. I mean, it's hard to talk about that in an apples to apples comparison because, 30, 40 plus years ago, the Storm Prediction Center didn't even exist to issue those tornado watches. So you didn't have them because there wasn't a program to actually issue them. Have storms in general gotten stronger? There's an argument to be made either way for that. I don't think this season so far has not been anything unusual. This is our severe weather season. We see this almost every year from, say, February through kind of late March, early April. And then it's as these cold fronts are fighting with that warmer air that's trying to move back in as we move from back to spring into summer. And then as we get into April, May, June, that line of conflicting air masses is going to move further to the north. This is when the majority of tornadoes are seen in Tornado Alley because of these interactions between these warm and cold air masses that are fighting for dominance during the changing of the season. So this is very common for this time of year. It's not necessarily anything that's out of the ordinary. Has it gotten stronger over a period of decades? Maybe. I can't say for sure. Pixie says, I'm seeing a ton of insane winds out north. Will we see those 90-mile-per-hour winds down here in Cameron? It's not out of the realm of possibility in some of those stronger thunderstorms. I don't know that it's not quite as likely in Cameron. I think the higher overall risk for those strongest winds are going to be further to the north up towards, say, Alexandria and points north of there. But that's not to say you couldn't get a 70, 80-mile-an-hour wind gust in Cameron. I don't think it's likely, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Geraldine says, do you think the storm line weakens over the Acadiana area? No, I don't think so. I think it's going to continue as a pretty solid squall line all the way through that area. Jermaine says, I seen a report earlier that looked like when it hit St. Mary Parish, looked like it was breaking up. That's probably a computer model, is probably what you were looking at. And again, as we always say on here, it's never a good idea to look at a single computer model when you're talking about making decisions. That's what we do here. We look at many, many different computer models to put together these forecasts. So, no, I don't expect, I mean, it is possible that it could happen, but I don't expect there's going to be a significant breakup of the line as it moves through those areas now. Kara says, we will have outside plans tomorrow at 9 a.m. Would you reschedule because of flooding? No, I wouldn't reschedule because of flooding. The thing is that any kind of flooding we see with this is going to be probably minor street flooding in most cases, if not all cases. And those are going to run off fairly quickly. The reason the water is going to pile up on roadways is just because of the heavy rain falling so quickly that it can't run off. Usually that resolves itself pretty quickly in just an hour or two. So by the time we get into tomorrow, I don't expect we're going to have any kind of flooding concerns. All right, not seeing any more questions at the moment, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the time being. If you have a question that I missed for some reason, feel free to shoot me a direct message on Facebook. I'll be happy to answer your question that way. My email is also on your screen there. If you have a question, you can send me an email directly. I'm going to be here the rest of the evening, so I'll be happy to answer your questions that way. It's donald.jones, my name with a dot in the middle, at NOAA, NOAA.gov, G-O-V. And I'll be happy to answer your questions that way. We've also got forecasters here. If you want to call us directly, area code 337-477-5285. Numbers also on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there. We have forecasters here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including me for the rest of the evening. So I'll be happy to take your phone call and answer your questions that way as well. You can also send us a message on X. You can also send us a message on Instagram if you like. So lots of ways to get in touch with us if you still do have a question that I missed for some reason, or if you're viewing this as a recording once we get off the air here. We're probably not going to do another one of these this evening because I'm actually going to be on the warning desk issuing any warnings that are necessary through the rest of the evening. But we will continue to provide updates through our social media accounts, including Facebook here, as well as X, which we're also broadcasting on. So be on the lookout for that. You can also always get the latest weather information on our website, which is weather.gov/Lake Charles, not weather.com. That's the weather channel. It's weather.gov/Lake Charles, or you can just click on the Lake Charles area from the weather.gov website. Everyone continue to have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Stay out of the wind. Don't get blown around too much, and make sure to have a way to get your severe thunderstorm and or tornado warnings in the event that those are issued later this evening. Again, we do still have a tornado watch in effect until 9 p.m. this evening for Southeast Texas, as well as Beauregard and Vernon parishes. And don't be surprised if those watches are extended further to the east as we go through the later evening and that storm structure all begins to move off to the east as well. Stay safe, stay dry, stay warm, stay wonderful, and we'll talk to you again soon.